Welcome to the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Congenital Heart Surgery Database monthly webinar for January 19th, 2021. Again, the agenda, welcome introductions, STS updates, IQVIA updates, and then we'll have time for user feedback, questions from you all. On the call today from STS, we have myself, excuse me, Carol Crone, Emily Conrad, Addie Dolan. From the IQVIA team, we have Joe Brower and Melanie Bent from the core group, and from the core group side, we have Dr. Jacobs joining us. We have Chastity, Janet, and Leslie. So thank you all for joining us today. First thing we're going to do, we're going to just a friendly reminder to please submit your questions via the Q&A. This is important. This helps us track the questions as they're coming in, and it allows us to track for STS purposes as well as IQVIA for their follow-up purposes as well. So again, please be sure to put your question into the Q&A. If you want to further discuss your question, or if you need to elaborate on any questions or clarify, please just raise your hand, use the raise hand function, and we can unmute you, and then we can have a discussion regarding your question. So again, please just be sure to put your questions in the Q&A and not the chat box. And again, please be sure to use the raise hand function. If you have questions or need to elaborate, we will unmute you, and then we'll be able to have a two-way conversation. Again, just please be sure to enable your microphone. Let's see here. What else do we have? Let's start with our STS updates. Again, just to recap, our 2020 harvest ends this week. The data file submission deadline is Friday, January 22nd at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So again, please remember the deadline is Friday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. The last date to opt out will be Tuesday, the 26th by close of business, by the end of day, let's say by end of day. So let's Tuesday the 26th at Carol, I think we usually do, is it 5 p.m. Eastern time, or I can't remember off the top of my head what time we usually do that.
1:59 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, all right. Yeah, same time. Okay, great. Thank you. I'll update that on my slides as well before we post it to the website.
Oh, you got it right.
Yep. Okay. Let's see here. For the 2021 harvest schedule, again, please note that that is posted on the STS website. So be sure to go ahead and download your 2021 harvest schedule. Again, just a friendly reminder regarding the Primary Procedure Mismatch Report. Please review that report overview to understand the current functionality of it. There are still additional enhancements that need to be done to the Primary Procedure Mismatch Report, which Mel and Joe will be touching on later on in the presentation. So again, just be sure to review that. Also, we are in, as you all know, we are in the middle of the CHSD upgrade. We are currently reviewing the valve section. If you have any upgrade suggestions to the valve section or any other sections, please be sure to email those to me at ljones@sts.org, and I can share those with the group when we meet, our next meeting. And also just a reminder that this new data version is scheduled to go live January 2022. Since we are in the final week of the never-ending 2020 harvest, I wanted to provide a few final data cleanup tips or efforts. So just be sure in this last week, ensure that all of your risk model variables are complete. And on the next slide, I did provide a complete listing of those risk model variables if you need that for reference. And also a reminder, if you are missing greater than 10% for any one of these variables, you will be excluded from Table 16 from the star rating. So again, we do encourage you to please run your internal data quality checks. We also have the information that IQVIA is providing for the pre-op factors and the missing complications. As well as the other risk model variables are currently included in the MVR. So again, we do encourage you to please run your internal data quality checks for this information. If you do not know how to do that, or if you do not have internal data quality checks, please work with your vendor directly. This is something that I've always encouraged, even when I was at DCRI and working with you all through the DCRI data quality reports, I always encourage, I highly encourage you all to have your internal data quality checks and run those weekly, daily, weekly, monthly, prior to submission, just to ensure that these risk model variables are complete, prior to submission. It'll make the data quality report and cleanup efforts later a lot easier. But again, please work with your vendor. If you do not know how to do this, or if you need to create internal quality checks, please, again, we encourage you to reach out with your vendor to get this, this functionality within your software. Also, please, the next ones, we emphasize your mortality variables are complete. And in regards to the mortality variables, we are looking at the mortality status at hospital discharge, sequence 4230, mortality status at database discharge, sequence 4260, and status at 30 days after surgery, sequence 4300. And that's for both data versions 3.3 and 341. So those sequence numbers refer to both data versions. Also, in regards to status at 30 days after surgery, just a reminder that an unknown is considered as missing data in analysis. So if you have unknowns, that data will be considered missing, and it will count towards your percent eligible for the risk model, as well as the risk adjusted mortality data. And also here next, just a note that the percent of missing data can impact table 16, your star rating, and the risk adjusted mortality data. So there are certain thresholds, and it's just too much information for me to include on these slides, but please do refer to the comments about missing data in the report overview. I did have IQVIA post to the library the fall 2019 report overview. So if you do not have that overview handy, please review that information. It is out on the IQVIA library under resources. So again, all that information is there, the risk model variables, as well as the mortality variables. And again, here in regards to the risk model covariates, I just provided a snapshot from the report overview. This table is in the report overview that is posted in the IQVIA library. This is, again, just a snapshot of all of the covariates that are currently used in the risk model for table 16. So again, make sure you have your primary procedure, your weight for neonates and infants, prior cardiothoracic operations. Please ensure that this data is clean and populated. Your non-cardiac abnormalities, prematurity for neonates and infants only, your pre-op factors, and again, your non-cardiac abnormalities. So again, just please review this and make sure all of this data is complete for table 16. Also, one other thing that I did want to point out regarding coding your Norwoods, this information is also in the report overview. Again, that is posted in the IQVIA library. Just a reminder, when coding the procedure, Norwood procedure, the primary procedure of the operation should be Norwood procedure. The second procedure, procedure 2 after the Norwood, must then document the source of pulmonary blood flow and be chosen from these 8 choices. Again, this is a snapshot from the report overview. There's additional information after this. Again, it's just too much information for me to put in these slides. There is additional information regarding those of you that use the long list. So again, just refer to that report overview. Again, IQVIA, and we will be adding a warning for the spring 2021 harvest regarding these Norwood procedures. I believe in the past at DCRI, we did at some point within, I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did at some point add this check to the DCRI data quality report. And so we will be adding this warning to the IQVIA data quality report. So in the meantime, again, this is just another check, maybe something you can work with your vendor to make sure an internal warning or internal check prior to data submission, ensure that that second procedure for those Norwoods comes from this list. So again, another thing for you to possibly work with your vendor to ensure that this data is coded accordingly. That is all that I have in regards to STS updates. I'm just going to turn things over to Joe for our IQVIA update, and then I definitely want to make sure we have ample time for you all to ask your questions. So with that, I'll turn things over to Joe.
Great, thanks so much. Good afternoon, everybody. So just going to cover a couple items that were released a few weeks ago on January 9th first. So these are now resolved issues, starting with for the missing variable report, SCS 5048. Anesthesia variables were displaying as missing for sites that do not participate in the anesthesia component. And so that should now be resolved, along with STS 4606 in regard to the participant dashboard. We did resolve an issue where the index procedures were not being correctly assigned in that report. So the dashboard should now reflect those appropriately. All right, next slide. And then an update that is targeted for this coming weekend on the 23rd in regard to the missing variable report, STS 4383. The missing variable report is currently not displaying preoperative factors or complications as missing when they were null or blank in the DAT file. And so if this is something that your site was impacted by, we have reached out to you to notify you and provide a list of operation IDs. Please, if you did get that email, feel free to go through that file and update any records that were impacted. Again, this is essentially what we're emailing you is an extension of the MVR. It's a list of items that are missing either pre-op factors or complications, so that you have an opportunity to go in and make those updates to the records in the IQVIA system. But that issue will be resolved this weekend. And then, as usual, if you have submitted a ticket that we did not discuss today, or if you have questions about items that you have submitted to the support team, please feel free to follow up with on your tickets, and we'll get back to you and let you know the current status of those. And then we will be also following up anything that we do, any items that we do review or add or resolve over the course of the next month. Those items will be posted to the notification section for you. All right, and then a few upcoming enhancements. To go over these, I'm going to turn things over to Melanie.
Thank you, Joe, and hello, everyone. Just a quick, just to go back to the item that Joe had raised regarding the pre-op factors and complications. For those sites that were provided a list, please make sure that, because we did receive feedback that updates were being made within their software vendor system, but please make sure that you are also exporting that newly created file that has those corrections, and please submit those to the IQVIA platform. So we want to make sure that we get those additions and updates within the IQVIA platform. So just make sure you're taking that additional step. Okay, so going into the enhancements, this is related to the primary procedure mismatch report. We do have items that will be updated on the report. So this is just a refresh of those items that will be going in, and we'll have more information once we have a targeted date, but it is coming up soon. So the updates that are listed here, the first one you'll see, it's 4371, where we will be adding the Kawashima procedure to the exception 1 code list so that it is considered in the report logic. Next is 4386, where we will be adding the report consideration, the logic update related to the combination codes, so that they are considered when determining the primary procedure. The next item is 4387. This is to update the Kawashima to make sure that if it's done in conjunction with either a Glenn or a Hemi-Fontan procedure, that the Kawashima is not downgraded. So that these are the items that we are currently working through. This is also information that DCRI will have to also update on their side. So again, just know that we are doing this information or getting this information updated on the IQVIA side, and have already shared these updates with the DCRI so that they will have this also. We have a couple more enhancements on the next slide. And to continue again with the primary procedure, we are updating in 4389 the report logic to consider, which is specific to rule. Which rule is this one? It is related to the 3 identified VSD repairs when selected in combination with a PFO. So we are updating that logic so that the consideration will handle that on the report. And then the very last item on this list is 4388. And this is to update 3 additional codes that are related to the hybrid approach. And these codes will be added to the exception rule 1 procedure specific factors list. And those codes are listed there. Okay, so again, these are upcoming, and once we have a targeted date, we will be sharing that information and, of course, posting updates in the notification section in the platform. Okay, I think that was the last slide. Yep, thank you.
Hi, Melanie. Yep, great. Thank you so much. Again, you all are familiar with the support plan. Just going to touch on this. Again, the standard plea to please include your participant ID and any and all communications with STS and IQVIA. It makes everyone's life a lot easier and just speeds up our response time just a little bit so we don't have to go in and research. So again, please include your participant ID in your communications with STS and IQVIA. Again, just a list of resources that are available to you out on the STS website. Again, my contact information, please feel free to reach out to me anytime with any questions, concerns. I'm here to help. Again, everyone, I'm here to help. Please, you have concerns, reach out to me. My inbox this has been a crazy week for me, and my inbox has been overflowing. So again, please reach out to me and know that I will get back to you as quickly as possible. So thank you. If you have any database operational questions, reach out to us at stsdb@sts.org. If you have any surgeons, again, that are needing access to the dashboard, can't seem to locate their username and password that was sent way back when, again, just feel free to email us at stsdb@sts.org, and we will get in touch with their surgeon and get that information to them. Just a reminder, so you can mark your calendars. Our next congenital webinars we have a user group call scheduled for next week, the 26th. We also have another user group call scheduled for February the 9th. And then our next monthly webinar is going to be held on February the 16th. And again, all times are 12 p.m. Central. So the 26th, the 9th, as well, and the 16th. So mark your calendars if you haven't already done so. That's all that I have in regards to STS updates and IQVIA updates. I see we have lots of questions coming into the Q&A, so I think we can probably go ahead and get started with those questions if everyone is ready. I'm going to put these dates back up here on the screen just in case anyone needs them. All right, so let's see here for our questions. Let me get here to this information. So, all right, our first question from Kelly. Sorry, my screens are going crazy. Regarding pulmonary blood flow for Norwood procedures, if pulmonary blood flow is missing, these cases will still be included in analysis, correct? I am under the impression that yes, they would still be included. To be honest, I would have to look at the overview and refresh my memory.
They've always been included in the past.
Yeah, I would say that they've
This is
never.
Janet.
Yeah, I would say I didn't
Yeah,
think.
this is Jeff Jacobs. They have always been included in the past, and at this point in time, best as I know, they're still included.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, we've been in every report overview for the last probably 8 or 9 years. We've made a plea to please put as the secondary procedure the source of blood flow, and I think that we have not used that as an exclusion criteria for the Norwood operation up until now, and it won't be an exclusion criteria on this harvest, but it certainly is possible that in the future it would become one with advanced warning, because it's very important information. But right now it's not an exclusion criteria.
Yeah, but it's much more efficiently captured in the procedure specific area, so we need to consider just going to that in the future. This is Janet again.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I think it needs to be in both places. It's pretty important to have it in both places for a variety of different analytic reasons.
Great. Thank you so much, Janet. Dr. Jacobs, I appreciate it. All right, our next question from Jocelyn. Will there be a % missing threshold for 365-day status? If so, when will that go into effect? And the answer to that is no, not that I'm aware of. Would not be adding a % missing threshold for 365-day status. It's just those variables that are indicated on this slide. Sorry for the aggressive scrolling. Again, it's just these variables here. And again, this information has been in the report overview included for many, many years. I don't even know off the top of my head. So this information is not new information. So
Yeah,
just
and as of now, there's absolutely no exclusion criteria related to 365-day follow-up. I think one of our goals is to get better and better at it, and it's certainly possible that one day down the road, when we start analyzing that data, there may become exclusion criteria, just like when we added the 30-day mortality exclusion criteria. It was gradually phased in over time once we started getting complete enough data. So, this is something that's going to be used in the future, but it's certainly not an exclusionary criteria for this harvest in any way whatsoever.
thank you. And also, I just also wanted to point out, Dr. Meyer has also joined us as well. So Dr. Meyer is available for questions and comments as well. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Meyer. Let's see here. Our next question from Carrie. This looks like a IQVIA. She's got a ticket number or a case number. Total number of operative mortalities differs from total number discharged 30-day mortalities. Separate dashboards are calculating these differently. Example, patient that had surgery in 2017 and passed away outside of the hospital in 2019. Also, one surgical patient had multiple admissions for different surgeries. The last surgery had the operative mortality, but the first surgery, the status should be alive.
We would have to take a look at this further. There's a lot of information in here that we would need to review. So Carrie, thanks for providing the case number. We will make sure to get back in touch with you in regards to this, but we have to kind of unpack all of these different points that you've listed.
Excellent, thank you. And Carrie, we'll have this information after the call. Again, like I indicated earlier, all these questions will go into a spreadsheet and I'll share that information with IQVIA for follow-up purposes. Let's see here. Our next question for analysis, does the temporary COVID field need to be completed for all surgeries within the episode of care, or is it only necessary to document it on the index case? I believe it's only, Carol, I know you've been on the, Dr. Meyer been on the COVID conversations, but I believe it only has to be on the index case. Is that?
No, I don't think so, Leanne. I think we would want it on every case in case they do contract it. They do develop COVID between procedures.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so I think we would want it on all of the cases.
That's a great point. Thank you, Carol.
I agree.
Yep.
Oh, great. Thank you, Dr. Jacobs.
Thank you. Let's see here. A question from Angie. When coding secondary pulmonary blood flow for Norwood's as a I think we already just discussed this, the primary procedure, the PSF doesn't take its place. Both PSF and secondary blood flow has to be documented. And I think Dr. Jacobs just touched on this. So, our next question from Carrie, are there still issues with pre-op factor analysis? It is part of the risk model. Yes, it's part of the risk model. I don't really understand the last conversation, pre-op factors and complications on our last webinar.
I can take this.
Okay.
This is an item that actually we discussed. Joe stated the actual ID that we're tracking, which there was an issue with the MBR where it did not flag the pre-op factor and complications. We did reach out to all impacted sites and provided the list of the operation IDs so that they were able to go into their software vendor system and be able to address updating those records, and then of course resubmitting that to the IQVIA platform. We do have the permanent fix that will be going into the application this weekend.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. Let's see here from Angie. I have an outstanding ticket. I have an outstanding ticket STS 5454. because the dashboard report is not correct for mort status at hospital discharge. Alive, deathless, unknown plus missing should equal the number of cases. I'm sorry, there's a lot of information here. So for mortality status at database discharge and operative mortality, they do not. They are 8 cases short. No idea how it's interpreted, how IQVIA is interpreting the data sent for these cases. Mort is our most important outcome. I do not feel comfortable ending the harvest until it's fixed. So again, Melanie, I don't know if you wanted to chime in, but I know this is something that you would have to look into.
I do have to look into it. And she provided the actual ID that was provided to her. So we're going to take a look at that. And also we should be able to pull up her, and if you're able to add your PID, if you have, when you're logging like these, that also helps us. But since you provided the STS 5454, we can go ahead and pull it up, but we do need to review to see exactly what was submitted, and we'll get back in touch with you.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. Let's see here. All right, our next question from Nancy. Why do we need to fix the mismatch report? You all changed the categories, so I don't understand why we need to. Nancy, this is just up to you all per institution. I know some sites like to have their local data, the data in their database match what is assigned over an analysis in regards to primary procedure. So when they're looking at their final report, their data matches. And I know some sites do not choose to update the primary procedure based on what's done in analysis. So it's strictly up to you all and your specific institution how you want to handle that. You're not required to, but we provide that as information so you'll know when the data comes back to you. If your numbers don't match, then you can have then you'll know why. But again, it's not required. It's informational purposes. If you want to change that and make your primary procedure match what's done in analysis, that's fine. If you guys choose not to, then that's fine as well. All right. Our next question from Heidi. There's a lot of information here, so bear with me. Received an email reference below, replied and informed IQVIA support that this patient is still in-house. Advised I disregard this email, received an additional email. Is this anything that will affect my harvest? Your site hasn't been identified as missing either pre-op factors, records. We have identified an issue with the MVR, and this is what Melanie touched on earlier regarding the missing the pre-op factors and missing complications. Attached to records that have been identified as having blank null values should be reviewed. Please update the variables in your software vendor, resubmit your file to IQVIA. Missing variable report will be updated to show this information in an upcoming release, which, as Melanie just talked about, they are working that this information will be included in the release this weekend. However, we want to get this information to you as soon as possible.
I know what happened, Leanne, with Heidi.
Okay.
Heidi, I think there was confusion when the second email went out. You can also disregard that one if it's the same patient, but we provided the surgery date in that second email, and I don't think there was much of an explanation identifying that, because I saw a couple emails get exchanged back and forth that was questioning why they received a second email if they had already updated it. So I believe that's what it was, Heidi. Okay. I apologize that there was confusion with that. If you wanted to clarify further, if there's something else that, oh, good. Okay. So you got it. And if she says, if this has no effect to my harvest, that's okay. Yeah, I think it was just that we resent the email with the additional information of OR dates to be helpful, and it caused a little bit of confusion without a real clear explanation. So apologize on behalf of STS for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Carrie. Yeah.
Just real quick before we move on, with those errors for your patients that are still in-house, even though you're getting a list from IQVIA, it's the same rule as before. If you don't have the discharge information in because the patient is still in-house, it's excluded, but this is simply telling you that it's missing.
Right. If you know why it's missing, then that's right.
Right.
Yep. All right. Let me get to our next question from Suzanne. My concern with the missing pre-op complication was that was sent is that the complications were not missing. They are not being interpreted by IQVIA. These are old harvest files submitted to DCRI, and the data is there. It is the same two complications. I think it's wound dehiscence, sterile median sternotomy. I think there was another one. I've seen it in communication, but I think that's something, Melanie, have you guys looked into that? Or I don't know if it's a thing on the vendor side or if it's on the, I don't know.
So what we are seeing is in the information in the data migration, that with these examples that were provided, it was not provided within the DCRI migrated files.
Mhm.
So if they received a notification stating that we do not have this information in our database, that is the most current. And so the list that they have been provided is notifying them to say, we don't have it. So they may see it in their software vendor system, but if they re-upload that file, then would basically refresh and upload the information for those records. So that's what we're seeing as of this morning.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm wondering, obviously I don't have access to any of the old data quality reports that were provided by DCRI. So I'm curious if this was reported then. It's just hard to go back and look at that historical data since I don't have the data quality reports or anything like that to go back and compare as to what was accepted by DCRI versus what we're seeing now in IQVIA. But it makes me think that it was perhaps still missing at DCRI because all that DCRI sent you all the data, all the historical data to IQVIA.
For the past two data versions.
Right. So there weren't any changes. Like IQVIA is not interpreting something different. It's literally what DCRI sent to IQVIA. And somebody's got their hand up. Hold on. Kelly has a question. And I assume there's several questions. Okay. I assume this is related to our current discussion. So Kelly, I unmuted you if you wanted to clarify.
Hi, Leanne, it's Kelly. Yes, it is related to our current discussion. The two specific codes that are showing up as missing in our database are code 255 and 250, and they're both wound dehiscence codes.
Mhm.
And I did look back, and all of those are coded. We have about 18 cases.
Mhm.
A couple of those are indeed missing, but all of the codes in question are code 255 and 250, and
Right.
they are all historical cases.
Okay. Yeah, and I did go back and, I was obviously checking, doing my due diligence when this came up. Those are both, valid codes for 3.3 and 341. So, yeah.
Okay.
So, IQVIA doesn't have the data. I'm interested, Carol, if we could talk about this, just touch base. I would be interested to know if we could reach out to DCRI to see. But the data's missing. So I'm sorry, I'm just kind of struggling because DCRI.
Yeah, we had Paul run the analysis on the migrated data set, and so those were the results that came back. But in order if we want to go ahead and resolve those cases, if you were to export those cases or that time frame and just upload it to IQVIA, the information will update to the database.
So is it not displaying because it's the migrated data set?
It's the migrated data set that is coming back as saying that those items are missing.
But they are actually there in the migrated data set. It's just not.
No, it's not in the DCRI migrated data set.
I can, maybe perhaps we could follow up with DCRI just to confirm again, but I don't know.
Yeah, we can definitely follow up, but I think that it wasn't across all.
Mhm.
And so that's why I think it may be I just identify sites. We provided the list. And so at this point, we could definitely go back and let them know. But Paul did do a quick query against that, and that's what he was able to determine.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. All right.
But those sites have been notified. that-
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they have.
That was the email, the 2 emails that were sent out.
That's
one-
correct.
The one that we tried to clear confusion on, but caused more confusion because sites didn't fix the issues.
Right.
Got it.
So Leanne, it's Kelly again. I am hesitant to upload more data with the harvest deadline just a few days away. We received our email on Thursday of last week. So if I upload data, I can't just upload just those 18 cases. I'd have to upload every case associated on that date, which could be 70 or 80 cases. And I'm concerned about continued issues or additional issues that I may run into with the data that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah,
John
I could-
Meyer. Can I just ask a question about that? Because I don't understand how on a given day you would have 70 or 80 cases.
So
I thought it was, you could only upload an entire procedure day. You know, if you did 3 operations in that day, you could upload all 3 of those cases. What am I misunderstanding?
So, Dr. Meyer, if we have 18 cases, all of those cases are on separate days. So I would have to upload every case on that day. So that could be 4 cases a day, which could be,
Okay, I get it. I get it. Thank you. Sorry.
thank you.
Melanie, did you want to comment?
No, I was saying that for those sites that have reported this in particular, I believe I saw Suzanne. I'm not sure, and was that Kelly Brown that was
Yes.
just speaking?
Yes.
Okay, maybe we can go ahead and connect. I think for those that have reported the with that specific example of the 250 and I forgot the codes,
250 and 255.
but we could get back in contact with those sites and let's just go ahead and see what can be done, right? I know that we're taking up a lot of, I see questions coming in, so we can reconvene after the call.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So thank you, Kelly. We'll going to follow up after the call and we'll be following up with you as well and others as well. Okay. Thank you. All right. All right, let's move on. We've got additional questions. My next question from a call, we relied on the DCRI report to help us to know the missing data and the risk model variables, so our file will be excluded. Pre-op factors is still not included in the missing variable report. Yes, we are aware, and Melanie indicated that it's coming this weekend. And today to announce for the first time that the file can be excluded, I think is problematic. 3 days before the harvest to send data managers to work with the vendors. Not sure how to describe it. So this is not the first time that we've announced that missing greater than 10% for these risk model variables makes you're excluded from the table 16. This has been information that's been in the reports, it's been in the report overview for a very long time. So this is not new information that's just getting dropped on you today. So again, I encourage you guys to, to refer back to your report overview and to, and I think this is even a footnote and maybe, I believe it's a footnote on that table 16, I'm not sure, but again, all this information has been included in the report overviews. I know we've talked about it at AQOs and data manager meetings. So this is not new information. I don't know if anyone else had anything to add to that, but I do.
No, I think you covered it well.
Okay. Let's see, our next question. For missing pre-op factors and complications, they are answered in the vendor tool. Only show missing on IQVIA. Okay, so we had just discussed this, Marina. Again, we'll be touching base after this and following up accordingly. We're going to look into that wound dehiscence, those 2 harvest codes for that missing information. Let's see here. Carrie, I wanted to let's see. In regards to the same conversation, facilities that have not fixed your suggested op numbers, those procedures will not be risk stratified with this harvest. The IQVIA update will be this weekend. Yes, the IQVIA update will be this weekend. And again, if you're missing more than 10% for those risk model variables, your data would be excluded from the risk model. Let's see here. Our next question from Dawn. Why are we getting a critical error message for missing TIN? Sorry if I missed the answer already.
Dawn, you shouldn't be receiving critical for a 10. So not sure if you've already reported that to our support team, but we need to please go ahead and submit that. You shouldn't be getting a critical because a critical would be preventing it from being saved to the database. You would get an error. So
Right.
if it's missing, you would get an error. It wouldn't prevent it from saving to the database. So please let us know if you're encountering critical, because that's not expected.
We would expect to see a critical validation on the NPI numbers. So if this question is in reference to NPI and not the TIN, then that would be expected. But agree with Melanie regarding the TIN.
And then also I wanted to clarify, I think I'd seen a question come across. Somebody had asked also about TIN, and I think on the last call, we did clarify and did cause a little, I think perhaps a little bit of confusion, but we're looking for the surgeon TIN, not for that birth hospital TIN. So there was a little bit of confusion, but yes, this warning that IQVIA is referring to, this would be for your surgeon TIN. Let's see here. Okay, Dawn says it was the TIN. She emailed yesterday regarding, she emailed tech support yesterday regarding this issue, so.
Okay. IQVIA was closed yesterday due to the holiday, so they will definitely be following up with you on that.
Okay, Dawn said thank you. All right. All right, I'm gonna give a few more minutes for a question. I don't see any additional questions coming in. Oh, here's a question from Heather. I encountered critical errors on a missing surgeon NPI. Is that as expected? So yes, that is as expected. This type of issue was also reported at the DCRI level. We have to have the surgeon NPI, as you all are aware, we cannot accept data from a surgeon that does not have a Schedule A. So again, we do need that surgeon NPI to verify that that surgeon is on file with STS. Again, that critical error on surgeon NPI is a valid critical error. Let's see, I see them in my DAT file, but we'll resubmit. Yeah, Heather, just ensure, work with your vendor. I think in some software you have the option to you have like a checkbox of do not export or do not include in the exported data file. So just check and make sure that that box is not flagged. So yeah, just check that. And if they are in your DAT file, again, you may want to just submit a ticket with support. So unfortunately, I don't have the DAT file, so I can't take a look at it. But Melanie and her team would be able to take a look and address that for you and follow up. Let's see here. Not seeing any additional questions. We've got about 15 minutes left. I don't know if anyone has anything that they would like to add from the STS core group or from that side of things. Let's see. Heidi says she has a question. Give her a minute to type. Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Heidi, do you want us just?
Yeah, we can just unmute you, Heidi. Yeah. Yeah, if you just raise your hand, Heidi, and it'll bring you to the top of our list. There you go. All right. You should be able to talk. There you go, Heidi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I forgot I was allowed to have a voice this time. When I emailed you guys about this earlier this week in regard to providing IQVIA access to a coordinator, and when that access is fulfilled for somebody to upload data and process reports for harvesting, do they also gain access to the dashboard, or do they only gain access to what would be needed for functionality to harvest?
Yeah, I think I saw your question come back through, Heidi, and I think I was waiting for Jane to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can find
I think she did respond. I'm just requesting clarification. because ideally I would like to be able to give staff access for the functionality of harvesting and generation of reports, but I wouldn't necessarily want them to have access to the dashboard or the data. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll post a link into the chat box, and this describes all of the roles. I'm not sure if you've seen this yet or not. Hold on.
Thank you, Carol.
Yep, the link I posted defines all of the roles. So I think there is, you might want to review that and see if any of those roles meet. So you want them to have access as uploaders, but not to the data itself,
Correct.
and not even to the uploader platform.
Well, they would need to be able to upload the DAT file. They would need to be able to process like the MVR, any of the reports in regard to cleaning up the harvest. But my leadership is not requesting them to have access to visualizing the data.
So the outcomes report.
Correct.
Okay, so
Outcomes report or the dashboard.
or Melanie, do we have a role that limits just to uploader function?
Not currently. That has not been requested to date.
Okay. So maybe that's something we can talk about on one of our elaboration calls, maybe this week.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem.
I'll lower my hand now.
Thank you. We have, let's see here, we have another question from Beth. Are we expecting the outcomes report in the usual amount of time? Will this be before the next harvest is due? So our next harvest is scheduled to close, I believe in March, which is just yet another reason why we need to wrap up this 2020 harvest. I know everyone, it's been an extremely bumpy road and a rough harvest, but we have got to get this 2020 harvest closed and get that data to analysis. So again, I don't know off the top of my head the turnaround time for that initial report. I can't give you a specific date at this time, but we obviously will look into that, but right now I can't give you a specific date of when that data will be available. But we need to get it closed and moved over to DCRI as quickly as possible. So we can, it's been a year, so we need to get that data available to the surgeons and to the leadership. Let's see, as one harvesting all three databases, please consider pushing back the spring congenital harvest. Obviously we have those dates out on the website. Clearly they're not set in stone. So, you know, obviously we'll, as with every harvest, we end up discussing the harvest close date. So Heidi, I'm sure this will be a topic of discussion between STS and the task force at some point in time. So again, I can't give you a definitive answer, but that will be a discussion, I'm sure, with the task force. I understand you have 3 databases. That's crazy. Let's see here. All right, I've got about 10 till. I don't know if anyone has any additional questions. I'm not seeing any come in. If anyone had anything else from the core group side, STS side.
Leanne, when we're done getting the harvest straightened out, will there be an opportunity to work on getting the dashboard a little bit more usable? This is Janet.
Yes, I keep you an STS for, you know, we're continuing to work on the dashboard and to present that data to you all. And a question from Kelly that came out, what will the report look like similar to the historical report? I don't know if IQVIA, if you guys want to give a description on that. I mean, we'll be including the data from the historical reports, the table 16, you know, all that information. One of the biggest differences between the historical DCRI PDF reports versus the IQVIA benchmark and risk adjusted reports will be the ability to drill down. So you can identify patients that are included in the specific numbers, which is a great benefit that IQVIA has to offer. I don't know, I know Kelly wanted to, all right, Kelly, I'm unmuting you so you can speak. Let's see here, hold on. There you go. You should be able, yes, ma'am, go ahead.
I guess I should clarify my question. Will we have printable sections? I think a lot of third-party entities ask for data from the STS that needs to be sent to them in a printable format.
So yes, you will have the ability to export and I think into a PDF. I don't know, Jeanette or Melanie, if you guys wanted to clarify on that functionality.
So
Sure. Go ahead, Mel.
So the report will be exportable, as Leanne says, in PDF format. And also there's an option within the report that will allow you to also export using PowerPoint. And so it will be a one-click option where you are able to get all of the different sections in one single report.
Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Melanie. Let's see. Kelly, or I'm sorry, Carrie has a question. If the data being submitted to DCRI by IQVIA is inaccurate, then the harvest report, publicly reported data will not be accurate either, right? I understand the push takes time, but it might not be correct information. If you're
Well, maybe this is John Meyer. Let me take a crack at that. I think we actually had this conversation or talked about it at the task force level or a subset of the task force. And one of the options that we're contemplating, depending on how all this works out, is whether or not to provide the reports to the individual institutions with whatever imperfections there are, but not use them for public reporting. And there's a larger context around public reporting that involves both how we're going to present the data on the website, what specifically is going to be reported is, as you all know, the stars have been taken off the report. There's been a proposal, particularly pushed by some of the parent groups, to report the so-called benchmark operations. There are some issues with that around how to risk adjust appropriately, because part of the study that many of you probably know that we've been involved in for a year and a half plus has been looking at different risk adjustment mechanisms. And I can tell you that none of the risk adjustment mechanisms, if only applied to the benchmark operations, work quite as well as when they do, considering the whole population. Then, how do we deal with that is sort of up in the air, I think, or at least undecided. At one extreme, we would do it like the adult database does, where you have a separate risk model for a cabbage, a different risk model for cabbage AVR, different risk model for cabbage MBR, et cetera. We could do that for either all or potentially a subset of the benchmark operations. And part of the reason for not doing all of them is because some of them, just even though they're a benchmark operation, they're not that common. Another approach would be to strictly define the criteria for going into the report, so that, if something would normally be classified as a bidirectional gland, but the patient also had total veins repair, that would a priori be excluded. So we get a more homogeneous patient population. And then maybe you could even consider reporting raw data without risk adjustment. So there are a lot of possibilities here that are still not decided. We're literally I have the second manuscript from the so-called Harvard study, which assesses hospital performance and how the various models assess hospital performance, is still on my screen. So, I don't think we're ready at this point to make a final decision about whether or not we should be doing any public reporting with the current harvest. But the idea is, you know, at the same time, I think most of the sites, or at least most of the surgeons who are involved, and the few of the data managers that are involved in our conference calls are, you know, are feeling like we need to get some reports back to the institutions. And that was probably the primary decider about, you know, just going ahead with this harvest as currently planned. And then, you know, we'll figure out the rest. You know, at least we can get reports back to people. And, you know, if we don't publicly report, then maybe we're not under quite the same scrutiny. And, you know, if it's not absolutely perfect, then, you know, we have a way of dealing with that by just not publicly reporting. So I think there are a lot of balls in the air here. No decisions have been made other than that we think it's pretty important to, you know, try to close this harvest and, you know, get to the next phase and then figure out, you know, how we continue to improve the process and improve the software at IQVIA and all of the other, you know, parts of this pretty complicated process.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Meyer. That's very helpful information. So I do appreciate you sharing that information. So thank you. All right, I have 1:57 Eastern time. I know we're coming to the end of the hour. I don't see any additional questions coming in. I think that's a good topic to end on, Dr. Meyer. Again, thank you so much for sharing that information with everyone. I wanted to thank everyone for joining today. Again, if you have any questions regarding this harvest or please reach out to me directly. I'm here to help. You all have my contact information. Feel free to email me. My email, just please be patient. I know my email is overflowing this week and last week. So again, here is my contact information. Again, reach out to me directly. And thank you all for joining today's call. Thank you to my SPS team and Dr. Meyer, Dr. Jacobs, and our IQVIA colleagues for being on the call with me today. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. And again, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or concerns. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thanks, guys.